Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your source for the finest 2A propaganda. Well, friends, Hunter Biden might be losing his bar certification in Connecticut. Nah, just kidding. He is definitely losing his bar certification in Connecticut. Legacy outlets tend to couch things in rather conservative terms to avoid overstepping and maybe speculating when they shouldn't be, but Biden is definitely losing his bar certification, and here's why. He already lost his certification in Washington, D.C. earlier this year, and he did not oppose the removal of the bar certification there. He's also not opposing the removal of his bar certification in Connecticut. There really isn't much reason for him to oppose it. See, although he graduated from law school and did pass the bar exam, Hunter Biden never practiced law, not in any context that would require bar certification anyway. So losing his bar certification doesn't matter to him. He got all of his money through daddy's political connections, so it's not like he's going to suffer from it anyway. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether Biden even cares about losing his bar certification, but hey, it would be impossible for us to produce quality 2A propaganda without sponsors. So let's pay some bills. Today's video is sponsored by Hornady.
The 338 Advanced Rifle Cartridge. Purposefully designed for hard-hitting subsonic performance, the 338R delivers 1.5 times more energy than the 300 Blackout subsonic. Featuring the 307-grain Sub-X bullet in the subsonic line and the 175-grain hollow point in Hornady Black. The big little cartridge that packs a punch. The 338 ARC from Hornady.
Next up is the zombie ammo background check out of California. Back in July, a 3-judge panel on the 9th Circuit ruled that doing background checks prior to selling ammunition is grossly unconstitutional for a variety of reasons, not the least of which includes the fact that if the system goes down, you can't buy ammo. Now, of course, there are a ton of other unconstitutional reasons because, you know, all gun laws are infringements. That said, the state appealed, and the 9th Circuit granted an en banc hearing, which in the 9th Circuit, because it's such a huge circuit with many, many judges, in the 9th Circuit, en banc doesn't actually mean the whole bench like it supposedly ought to in other circuits. This will be an 11-judge panel headed by the Chief Justice. How will things shape up in an en banc review of the ammo background check law? Well, we'll have to stay tuned to find out, but given it's the 9th Circuit, historically the way things often tend to go is that the first time through we have a normal, rational ruling, and then the powers that be are like,
holy shit, we can't have that. We'll have to roll it back and come up with some bizarre reason to do it.
If you forced me into a corner and made me bet on this, I think we're probably going to lose on the en banc, and then of course we'll have to submit to the Supremes and hope they grant cert. So the Department of Education wants to teach children about the Second Amendment. Now, to be clear, this has nothing to do with local pushes to teach gun safety in schools. This is about the federal Department of Education deciding that it wants to push propaganda in the classroom. Now, I do propaganda. I like doing propaganda. I believe gun rights are human rights. I believe that gun rights are fundamental human rights in that a gun gives you the ability to resist aggression. The most fundamental of human rights is the right to be alive and to choose what I choose. And I don't have the right to be alive or to make my own choices if someone else can come in and override my decisions. If someone can impose their will over mine, whether that be for my wallet or my life or anything else, if I don't have the ability to resist aggression, then I don't have those rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in the first place, do I? So yes, I believe that gun rights are absolutely fundamental, and I believe that the Second Amendment is one of, if not the most important of the amendments. That said, I don't think the government has any business teaching on ideological grounds. I would like it if people understood more about the historical context of the Second Amendment, but my problem is, well, two things. One, I'm not convinced this current administration really understands properly the context of the Second Amendment in the first place. But more than that, what happens when Gavin Newsom is president the next time around and he wants to implement a similar policy? How are things going to look under the Newsom regime when they want to teach people what the Second Amendment really means? I'd like to hear your thoughts down below. Does the Department of Education have any business in this area? Should they be out there trying to teach people what the 2A is really about? I can totally see some rational arguments on either side of this, so I'd really like to hear your thoughts on it.
Go District News!
All right, Taurus is rolling out a Raging Hunter in 350 Legend, and it is absolutely unhinged. Take a look at this beast. I'm sorry, I want one. I would totally EDC this, and Luis Valdez, I know you would too. If you're out there, I see you. So it holds 6 rounds. It has a 10.5-inch barrel. It's obviously chambered in 350 Legend. It has this really cool two-tone black matte, black oxide stainless steel finish. And the vibes of it are kind of interesting to me because I don't actually know much about the history of the 350 Legend. I always kind of assumed that it came about from a conversation between a couple of dudes that went something along the lines of, man, 357 is pretty badass out of a lever action rifle. I really wish I could get one into an AR, but that whole rimmed cartridge case thing would absolutely bugger up feeding. So then somebody's like, well, what if we just made like basically the same thing as a 357 mag without a case rim, and then it would feed just fine in 30 round AR mags. And of course, obviously, I know that the case dimensions are based mostly on 5.56. Yeah. But from a external and terminal ballistics perspective, 350 Legend seems to be pretty close to 357 Magnum. And that brings it full circle all the way back around into a revolver chamber. And I find that interesting. So there's a company called Duria out of Jacksonville, Florida, and they appear to be selling 3rd gen compatible Glockish things. They also have a Turkish component, and apparently some of the parts of their guns are made in Turkey, some are made here. I couldn't figure out exactly which parts are made where, but the prices appear to be pretty reasonable, and the guns appear to be compatible with Glock Gen 3 parts. In fact, at least with the cursory glance, it appears that many of the parts are interchangeable. Now, I've got no idea if it's a good gun, but the price seems to be reasonable. Of course, you know I can't tell you what it is because YouTube hates us, but they do have a website, and if you were hypothetically to go to that website, you would probably see a price, and you would see a price on it. And of course, that price is likely to beat their MSRP, which in general terms is usually quite a bit higher than what you see on the street. All that said, they also appear to be compatible with Gen 3 Glock parts. And that matters to you if you happen to have an accessory that is not compatible with V-Series Glocks.
Saying I've said before, but it's kind of true. Every semi-automatic weapon is a broken machine gun waiting to be fixed. If it can fire semi-auto with the right tools and the right parts, it can be full auto.
All right, let's check in on the ARFCOM forum. First up, I already told you about this, but I want to remind you, when we go to SHOT, we're going to try to sneak into the Gundies and interview some of the more heavy-hitting PewTubers out there. So I would really like to hear the sort of comments, the sort of questions that you want us to ask them. So if you have any specific questions that you would like to ask people like John Lovell or Sean Ryan or Garand Thumb, head on over to the ARFCOM thread and leave a post there and let us know what kind of questions to ask. Moving on down the road, let's check out this thread about a new tier list for ARs that just dropped. I have some issues with it. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this tier list. I don't disagree entirely, but there's a couple of things on here that are a little odd. For example, I've never heard of Blackout Arms before, so I'm not sure they have the reputation that you need to earn a place on the S tier. I'm sure it didn't have anything at all to do with this creator purchasing a rifle from that company. I also think Geisley and Daniel Defense probably belong on more or less the same tier with each other. I also think it's pretty wild saying that both LaRue and Colt are below Rock River, but hey, I'm just some dude. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on this new tier list. What brand do you think should be S tier? Well, friends, thanks for watching. And if you would like to help us keep delivering you pure and good American propaganda at the low, low price of free, don't forget that it would be literally impossible to keep the lights on without our sponsors. So do us a solid and get yourself something nice from them. You deserve it. I love you.